Hello, Rabbi.
Hello, Lois.
How are you?
Very well. Hello, David.
Oh, can I talk? I talked to Rabbi Wolf.
Yeah.
When he was over, and I asked him about exactly what the Lubavitch custom was with salt.
Oh, with the salt, yeah.
They don't use salt as on Rosh Hashanah.
That's what I thought.
And it's exactly for the reasons that you thought, because of its connections with Gevurah. But he made a couple of points about salt. He said that, well, salt is something that you never eat for itself. It's only in order to, make something taste better. Sugar, you eat by itself. It's sweet, it gives you nutrition. But he wasn't taking, like, according to the way he was looking at it, something that was a sweet thing that you would eat by itself wouldn't serve the same purpose as salt. That's the whole thing with salt. He connected salt to Gevurah. He says that the sweetness of something is due to the chesed that's, built into it. So it was along those lines. But he didn't want, and he explicitly associated salt with Gevurah. So
did he say, what did he say about but at the Seder, he agreed they also don't dip it in salt, right?
Yeah, he didn't comment on that.
I don't remember. Right.
But it's said, because when we were reading the customs of Chabad, it said they do not. And then the Rebbe himself asked, what to do about the shlah in the name of the Arizal or something that said you should dip it. But it said that the custom was not to dip it. They don't dip it on Pesach either.
I would imagine, but they have, I'm sure they have it on the table. The only time they don't have it on the table is Rosh Hashanah.
Right. Now, but then otherwise, the notion that the salt is connected to karbonos and that the reason we have it on the table is connected to karbonos that he acknowledged was why we would have it the rest of the year. Did he talk about that, or he didn't? Why do we have it on the table?
Yeah, no.
Okay, but I'm assuming that he would agree with that. And again, we saw the Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch, the Mechaber Yosef Karo said that we didn't see about Rosh Hashanah. We didn't see any mention of what he does on Rosh Hashanah. Let's just see. Maybe we can find for 1 second. Nothing is for 1 second. Hi, Estelle.
Hi, Rabbi. Hi, Lois.
Hi, Estelle.
Yeah, so even here they say, why? Your table is an altar. This is Chabad.com discussing, let's see here. This site, it's called Miodea.
Yes.
And they always have, I really oftentimes end up.
Really, I'm suspicious of it.
I know, but what happens is what happens a lot of times the guy will cite sources and then I go to the sources.
Oh, okay.
Like here, for instance, he's quoting the Lavush. So it'll quote the Lavush 580. I have to get rid of this box. 1 second here. Okay, accept all cookies now, go away. Okay, now. All right, so it says here, Uminag Ashkenaz matbilim prusos. All right. The custom in Ashkenaz is to dip pieces of bread into honey. No, he makes no mention of dipping in salt in addition to the honey. Magen Avram and Mishnah Berurah also quote the custom of dipping bread into honey and don't say anything about salt. However, as you noted in your question, some authorities do recommend dipping in salt as well. So Kaf HaChaim, the Kaf HaChaim is sort of like the Mishnah Berurah for Sfardim.
Okay.
And he says, after he says hamotzi, he dips a piece of bread in salt 3 times, and afterwards he dips them in honey or sugar as a good omen and eats. Tamei Minhagim in footnote 310 records a custom to first dip a piece of bread in salt and eat, and then to dip into honey and recite Yehi Ratzon. Rabbi Yehuda Mondschein in Otzrot Minhagei Chabad notes a slew of Hasidic sources discussing a custom to dip in both honey and salt, but does not infer that the Chabad custom, at least at the time of Yosef Yitzchak, what does he say? But does infer that the Chabad custom, at least at the time of Yosef Yitzchak Schneerson, was only to use honey and not even have salt on the table. So, but he mentions that a slew of Hasidic sources discussing a custom to dip in both honey and salt. Let's just see that. The resource could not be loaded because the app transport security policy requires the use of a secure connection. Who are these people? On my thing, it says the resource could not be loaded because the app transport security policy requires the use of secure. That's fantastic. That's hysterical. Anyways, so apparently there are different customs, but even he notes that Chabad custom was only to use honey and not even have salt on the table. But it's just interesting. This it's almost worth, I have this group, it's made up mostly of nephews of mine, but 2 of my kids are in it as well, and my brother-in-law's in it, where we take turns doing chaburos. So like the last one I did was on making a siyum, which I did a lot of the research together with Lois and Estelle. I kept our work in Bamidbar, and was a big part of what inspired me to do that one. And I kept on going over it with them. They had to deal with me while I was working on it. But anyways, you have to come up with a subject. This salt one, I just like the ones that are on the periphery, that have stuff, that have like just little islands of thought out there, and you're trying to just put it all together. Okay, anyway, so that's that. So thank you for your research. And now,
One thing about he didn't seem very interested in talking about the entire subject.
the salt one,
Yeah,
because it's gvura. It's gvura. You don't want to.
yeah, but
Simcha, chesed, love. That's what we need to be focused on. Don't spend too much time on salt. Yes, salt's important, but it'll drag us down. We need to focus on chesed, sugar. That's where we should be thinking. I could see it. I could see it. What is going on with the app transport authority? They're blocking everything I'm trying to do. Who are these app transport authorities? That was the second time that happened. I never remember that happening at all. And suddenly the app transport authority? Who are these nameless people that are trying to impact my study, our study? Okay, so that was the salt. Now we are on to elevation offerings. He's commanded us with the process of the burnt offering sacrifice. And that is that every burnt offering sacrifice, whether it be the sacrifice of an individual or the community, be according to this and that stipulation and according to this description. It's just funny when he doesn't get specific, because he so often does get specific. And then every once in a while, he's been doing this where he'll just be, no need to go into the details, just whatever the details are that the Torah wants, both in writing and orally, you're supposed to do it. That's one mitzvah. The details are not separate mitzvahs. There's one mitzvah, and that is the mitzvah to bring an elevation offering. And all the rules for elevation offerings, for instance, where the blood is sprinkled on the altar, there was a red line on the altar that goes around the altar, and the blood sprinkling is either below or above that red line. It could also be at different corners, but also below or above that red line. That's one of the rules. There's a rule that the elevation offering be slaughtered at on the northern part of the courtyard. There's there's rules about what happens to the skin, who gets the skin, because again, even though these elevation offerings, which are sometimes called whole burnt offerings, this olah, even though they are characterized as whole burnt, they're not actually wholly burnt. The animal is skinned and then butchered, and then the elements, the various meat elements of the offering are brought on the altar. Nothing is eaten from this. In sin offerings, a part of it is eaten by the male Kohanim that happen to be there. But elevation offerings, nothing is eaten. That's why they're often called whole burnt, but they're not just, the animal is not just put on the altar and then burnt. The animal is slaughtered just like all the other animals, and then the blood is brought and sprinkled on the side of the altar, and then the animal is skinned and butchered, and then the meat is brought on top of the altar. This is really the oldest kind of offering that you find. This is the kind of offering that Hevel would have brought when it describes Hevel bringing offerings, or when the patriarchs are bringing offerings. Whenever it talks about those korbanos before Sinai, is there ever an example? I don't think there is an example of what we call a peace offering, where part of the offering, where part of the meat would have been eaten by the people, besides the Kohanim, or even the Kohanim. It's true, even the sin offerings being eaten by the Kohanim. I don't think we have examples of those kind of offerings before Sinai, where any of the meat is eaten. They all seem to have been offered as what you would call a whole burnt offering. Ola means elevation. You have some words that characterize a gesture that would be made when during the period of time that the offer is brought. Like, for instance, there's something called a tenufa. A tenufa is a, hang on a second, I'm not getting, it doesn't work when we're looking at text, that's why. So you can't see me here. Can you see me? Can you see me now? Can you guys see me? I see me, but do you see me? If I'm making a hand
Hold on,
gesture,
yes, I can see.
you can see that if I make a
Yeah.
gesture? Okay,
Yes,
so
you're
a
holding your hand
tenufa,
up.
a tenufa is a wave, or is a horizontal waving that would happen. So let's say, I think the bikurim is an example of that, the first fruits. So the object is taken and it's waved. Also, the Leviim were waved. When the Leviim were originally taken to be the Leviim, I think they were individually lifted up and waved. Also, I think the Shavuos offering, the lambs for the Shavuos offering, for the Musaf and Shavuos, I'm pretty sure they're waved. So you do like a horizontal waving like that, where truma means to lift up. Truma is lift up. So Ola also seems to imply that. Although in the offering itself, there isn't, as far as I know, any gesture of raising it, which you might think there would, like with Truma, raising it, or Tanufa, waving it, Ola. But I think what's happening is, like when it's after the notion of that it goes up, that the smoke and the fragrance go up, l'reach nichoach, as a a pleasant smelling offering to God. So I think that is where the term specifically is referencing. Okay. Next, in 64, we have the sin offering. He should see vanashia maisa korban chatas al Torah hanizkar ezachata shia u'omro v'zos Torah's hachatos. So again, similar kind of vague description when it comes to the sin offering. Everything involved with the sin offering is part of one mitzvah. They're not, the separate elements are not counted as separate mitzvahs. That seems to be his main point. So there's all sorts of details. Again, the sin offering is the animal is sacrificed on the north side of the courtyard. The blood is sprinkled either, I don't remember, it's either above or below that red line. The male Kohanim that are in the courtyard eat from it. It's sin offerings. Sometimes can be brought as a public offering. Sometimes they're brought as individual offerings. That was true of the Ola also. So one would be an example of a public sin offering, Rosh Chodesh. There's a public sin offering that is brought. It's called Seir HaChatas, the goat that is a sin offering. So that is a sin offering. And then there's individual sin offerings. The individual sin offerings are brought for a specific class of sin. The specific class of sin are those sins which, had the person done it on purpose, would have led to a kares level penalty. Karet is excising. It either means that the person would die young, or that they would not enter the world to come, or something would happen to their children. It's considered one of the worst, if not the worst, penalties a person could have. An example of a sin for which somebody would get karet would be eating on Yom Kippur. Another example would be eating the forbidden fats. There are certain forbidden fats in a behema, in a cow or sheep or goat, that are considered highly, highly forbidden. They're around part of the stomach or around the kidneys, and it's considered very, very forbidden. So that would be another example of kares. Another example of kares would be certain illicit sexual relationships could be on a kares level. So if somebody transgresses, or there are Shabbos transgressions, there are times when if a person transgresses Shabbos, it could be a kares level penalty. So if a person does a kares level penalty by accident means they know what they're doing, but they forgot it was Shabbos, or they forgot you're not supposed to do it. And so in those cases, it was a meaningful gesture, but it was a mistake. So in such a case, you bring a sin offering. So let's say somebody was gardening. They just, it slipped their mind that it was Shabbos. They're not supposed to be gardening. And they did one of the, or several of the categories of things you're not allowed to do as part of gardening. So now, in order to repair what happened, they bring a sin offering. So that sin offering is only for those kind of transgressions. Let's say somebody just really wanted a cheeseburger and they ate a cheeseburger. You don't bring a sin offering for that. If somebody did something else because they just they had chametz on Pesach, and they just or they didn't, or they decided they're not bringing the Korban Pesach when they're supposed to, and they did it on purpose. So these would be examples of Koresh level penalties where there would not be a sin offering. Why isn't there a sin offering in those cases? So the commentaries generally suggest that's because the sin offering is not to repair for the sin. The sin offering is to repair for not paying attention. That's how Rav Shimshon Hirsch explains it. The sin offerings don't fix sins. They fix not paying attention. And if you did this thing wrong just because you wanted to do it, you didn't have the not paying attention part. So the sin offering doesn't fix that. God wants us to pay attention, and he especially wants us to pay attention around things that are very serious. And so if we slip up and are not paying proper attention, then we need something to bring us back to proper attentiveness, mindfulness, as we might say nowadays. So that is the sin offering. '65. He should see Vanashia Maisa Korbana Osham, Al Torah Nizkar Ba'omru Vazos Torah Osham, Ubear Kosav Eich Yikra, Uma Yisraf Mimanu, Uma Yochal Mimanu. So there is also the commandment to bring the guilt offering. Again, there's certain circumstances when you bring guilt offerings. Here, let's. The Greek for a guilt offering is perites plamilius. The transgressor furnished an unblemished ram for sacrifice. Under what circumstances? Infringing on the rights of priests to portions or other sacrifices, committing an unknown sin, swearing falsely in a matter concerning money. It was also given as part of the purification process for tzara'at. Oh, look at that. Because we just had this in our, we've been doing this in our, Rabbi Fox has been teaching a class on the book of Shmuel in the mornings on Shabbos. And we got to this section, which is one of the most humorous sections in Navi. It's after a very tragic section. But the Philistines are told by priests and fortune tellers to make an offering of 5 golden mice and 5 golden hemorrhoids in hopes of ending the mice and hemorrhoids that had plagued them since the ark of God from Israel. The image of golden mice and golden hemorrhoids are used in the offering, and apparently they call it an osham, a guilt offering. That's awesome. The golden hemorrhoids cannot get funnier than that. Terrible circumstances. But a very funny moment. That's an example of dark Jewish humor. The golden hemorrhoids. All right, so anyways, the cases that they describe here are what we call misuse of temple funds or Cohen funds. Now they mention committing an unknown sin. That's an asham talui. That's a kind of asham, a guilt offering. It's called a hanging or conditional guilt offering. So what happens is, if you were in a circumstance where you should have brought a sin offering. So let's go back to the eating the forbidden fats thing. Let's say you're at a restaurant and the restaurant is preparing meat for both Jews and Gentiles. And it has 2 what appear to be identical pieces of meat. one on each tray, the one on a plate, two plates next to each other. They look like identical cuts of meat, but one of them, it has forbidden fat on it. The other one does not. So the chef knows which one is which. What happened was he turns to look at something, and when he comes back, both plates are gone, and one plate was taken to the kosher meal and the other one was taken to the non-kosher meal. And he doesn't, the server doesn't remember which he took to which. So now he goes to the guy who keeps kosher and he tells him, look, there were two pieces of meat. They were identical looking. They got switched up. I don't know which was which. You got served one of them. There's no way to know if the one that you ate had the forbidden fat on it. Now, if it had the forbidden fat on it, he would have to bring a sin offering. But he doesn't know if it had the forbidden fat on it. So he can bring a conditional guilt offering. That's one of his, this is an option. And that sort of covers you if you were supposed to bring a sin offering. So that's a detail of the usham, of the guilt offering. But I like the golden hemorrhoids. Out of all of this, I hope that's what you take from it. Golden hemorrhoids.
Are we sure that's what it means?
Lots of studies been put into it, Lois.
Okay.
Lots and lots of intense
I'm
studies.
sure, I just.
In the King James, I think they refer to them as emrods, but I'm pretty sure mounds and mounds of research, I think it's probably no research has been done on it, but nobody wants to mess with it, because why would you mess with something that's that funny? You don't want to take it away. You don't want to. There's certain things you just want to leave in place, and you don't want to mess with them, because especially right over there, there's so much sad stuff going on. You need to have a little bit of humor.
How would we duplicate that?
I know that's been discussed. There's been a lot of discussion at the shop's morning class about exactly what they would look like.
Okay.
Speculation. Why am I in Two Kings? Any idea? My mind is just cannot be trusted.
It's a good book.
It's an excellent. I know I went there because of my previous class. We were studying Two Kings, and that's why I went there. How do I do this with them?
Is that like 2 Corinthians?
Yeah. What did he say? Was that what Trump said?
I
2
say,
Corinthians?
yeah, instead of 2 Corinthians, he said 2 Corinthians.
I like to say that's probably why I say it, because I was very influenced by that. Two Kings. What did I go away? Go here. There we go. I wanna read something to you. It's Shavuos related. Maybe we'll just take the next few minutes for Shavuos related, just because I can't help myself. That and also, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to meet tomorrow and Wednesday, so I'm out of town. But so therefore, I just want to read this to you, because I've been studying the connection. Okay, I'm going to clean up, so I'm leaving it there. Okay, thank you, Stan. So I've been thinking about the connection between the finite and the infinite. When you think about God speaking to the Jewish people, so this is one of those moments where you are talking about infinite connecting with finite, but every time you talk about God in the world, you are talking about somehow the infinite connecting to the finite, and we take it for granted that somehow it happens. There are some people who do more than that. They try to diagram a system where we can show to some degree how this happens. The Sfirot, the various spiritual energies are a part of that. When somebody's trying to explain God's infinite connection to the finite, when it talks about making something out of nothing or making nothing out of something, we're talking about this subject of the finite approaching the infinite. Ramosha Shapiro suggested that words with the root samach fe resh are often used in this context of the finite meaning the infinite. So the Sfirot, like I just mentioned, the Sfirot, they are samach pe resh. Also, Sfira Sa'omer, counting, because you're like counting towards the event at Sinai. So you begin with the finite, but you're moving towards the infinite. Those who suggest the number 50 somehow numerically represents the infinite. So there is an approach from the finite to the infinite. He even said a sipur, which is a story, is how we sometimes try to capture the infinite with the finite. We use words, and you might use grammar and punctuation when you're writing it, or when you're telling it. These are all finite, but the goal is to capture something that in some ways is without limit, is infinite. He even said the word sap, because he was suggesting a telescope is sort of like it. The glass of a telescope, which in some context is called sapphire, samach pe resh, again, like the glass of a telescope, that you can use this finite medium to again approach the infinite. These are all sort of metaphors that describe it. So I asked Chat GPT. This was my prompt to it. I said, can you compose an essay on the notion of the finite meeting the infinite? How we give loved one flowers to express love, or say thank you to express gratitude. That was the entirety of the prompt. Once again, can you compose an essay on the notion of the finite meeting the infinite? How we give a loved one flowers to express love, or say thank you to express gratitude. That was the entire prompt. So it produced. Title: The Interplay of Finite and Infinite, Expressing Love and Gratitude Through Gestures. Introduction. In the intricate tapestry of human emotions, we find ourselves yearning to express profound sentiments that transcend the boundaries of language and logic. The encounter between the finite and the infinite takes shape in these moments, where we seek to encapsulate boundless feelings within tangible gestures. The act of presenting flowers to convey love, or expressing gratitude through words of appreciation, showcases our innate desire to bridge the gap between the limited and the limitless, to touch the divine through the tangible. When we give a loved one flowers, we engage in an ancient practice that transcends time and culture. Flowers, delicate and ephemeral, embody the fleeting nature of life and the fragile beauty that graces our existence. By selecting and presenting them to our beloved, we offer a tangible expression of the infinite depth of our love. In this act, the finite petals and the infinite emotions converge, creating a profound connection that surpasses the boundaries of words alone. The delicate blooms symbolize the fragility of life and love, reminding us to cherish each precious moment. Similarly, when we express gratitude, our infinite words carry an immeasurable weight. In moments of appreciation, we attempt to encapsulate the infinite impact another person has had on our lives. The act of saying thank you becomes a conduit through which we acknowledge the boundless depth of gratitude residing within our hearts. Although the words themselves may seem finite, their power lies in their ability to evoke infinite emotions, fostering a sense of connection and warmth between individuals. Both the act of presenting flowers and expressing gratitude illustrate the human capacity to employ symbolism as a bridge between the finite and infinite realms. Symbolism, deeply ingrained in our collective consciousness, enables us to encapsulate complex emotions with tangible forms. Through symbolism, a bouquet of roses becomes a visual representation of love, its thorns mirroring the challenges love often presents. Similarly, the spoken words of gratitude become vessels of appreciation, carrying the weight of profound emotions that may otherwise remain unspoken. In the conclusion, in the realm of human emotions, the meaning of the finite and infinite lies at the heart of our attempts to express love and gratitude. Through the act of presenting flowers or uttering words of appreciation, we navigate the delicate balance between the tangible and intangible, attempting to capture the vastness of our feelings with finite gestures. As we embrace the interplay of the finite and infinite, let us remember that the true essence of love and gratitude lies in the boundless depths of our hearts, beyond the realms of any physical offering or verbal expression. That is a product of ChatGPT. I also...
Wow. Yeah.
It was absolutely breathtaking. I asked it to do it as a TED Talk, the same thing as a TED Talk.
Yeah.
It wasn't as good, but it does the style. Like it does it'll have like open music, speaker enthusiastically. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I invite you to embark on a journey where the finite meets the infinite. Picture this. You find yourself in a world of emotions where words fall short and the intangible yearns for tangible expression. In this TED Talk, we explore how the act of giving flowers to convey love or expressing gratitude through words of appreciation transcends the boundaries of language logic. So the essay blew me away. The TED Talk, not so much. And then I asked it to do it as a stand-up comedian.
Yeah. Create a document.
Right. Then I asked it to do it as a stand-up comedian. That one, maybe if I had given it.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, but maybe I should have given it a particular comedian, because it didn't. I mean, it starts off, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for a hilarious take on the interplay of the finite and the infinite. So picture this. You're standing there holding a bouquet of flowers, trying to express your undying love. But wait a minute, flowers? Really? Are we trying to woo someone or start a mini garden? I mean, sure, they're pretty, but they're about as finite as a Kardashian marriage and whatever. And then I asked it to do it as a song by Carole King, in the style of Carole King, which it did pretty good, but I would need the music to see if it really did. But the best one, the essay was just blew me away. And all the prompt was, it was such a simple prompt. The finite meeting the infinite, giving love and flowers to express love or say thank you to express gratitude. That was it. And it came up with that. That was
Unbelievable.
It was really something.
What about
Anyways,
elephant and the Jewish problem?
What, the elephant and the Jewish problem? Oh, it could do wonders, I'm sure.
yes.
Oh.
All right. Have a wonderful
So,
shul.
We have no class tomorrow night either, right?
Right. And then I'll be honest with you. It's like I hesitate to do this. I don't know why. But next week, Monday and Tuesday, we're also not going to be able to meet there. I'm going to be in a wedding in Toronto. It feels like I'm just like this jet setter who's constantly off to different things. But I don't know how that could be in my life, but apparently that's what's happening. And after that wedding next week, I really cannot picture the next time we will not be meeting. I cannot imagine it. But I'm sorry that things keep on coming up.
Don't say that, because then something will come up. You know it.
Yes.
Yes,
If it always should be for good, only for good. whatever
Only
it is.
for good.
absolutely.
Right.
Yes.
And hopefully involve all of us together so that we could keep on schmoozing anyways while we're, all right. So, okay. All right. I'm very grateful. Yeah. So I'm actually not going to see you till a week from Wednesday.
Have Chag Sameach.
Chag
Yeah.
Sameach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Happy,
Have a-
meaningful
have a-
Memorial's Day.
Have a
And-
good Shavuos.
Sameach. Yes.
Chag Sameach.
Be
Chag
well, guys.
Sameach, Estelle. Bye-bye.
Chag Sameach, Lois. Have a good Shavuos.
Okay. Be well.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Enjoy your travels, Rabbi.
Thank you. Thank
Travel
you.
safely. Bye.
Bye-bye.